Hey gaming fans, so today I'm showing off another Harry Potter TCG deck that I've built. So the first deck that I showed off was a Lesson Killer deck that I used to actually play when I used to go to like local tournaments for Harry Potter. And this one is showing off the creatures, because I didn't really talk too much about creatures and how they work in the videos that I've talked about this game. So I thought, why not show off this creature deck so you can just see how the the creatures work, because it's a little bit different than your typical trading card game where you put the creatures into play and you attack your opponent and they can block, and like typical Yu-Gi-Oh magic stuff. So anyways, the deck has 24 lessons in it, which are all just the creature lessons, or the Curse of the Magical Creatures lessons. So there's 24 of these in here, because you do need a lot of lessons for this deck. This obviously would be a bad deck to play against that Lesson Killer deck that I showed off, but either way. So for the character, I use Professor Minerva Mcgonagall. So it's a witch, and once per game, you may discard an adventure your opponent has played. So that's kind of a nice effect, because some adventures can be pretty nasty. And the reason why I'm playing her is because she provides one transfiguration, so you don't have to have them in your lessons. You don't have to put transfigurations in there. So that way, it's all just that kind of lesson in your deck, and you'll always have at least one transfiguration to play them. So that's why I play her. And for the transfiguration cards, I don't play a whole lot, but this one's just too good to not play. It's called Steel Claw, so it's cost 4, and all your creatures do damage to your opponent. So how the creatures work in this game is you pretty much just play them to the field, and then on your turn, on your next turn, when you start your turn, all your creatures deal their damage directly to your opponent. So there's no blocking, there's no I declare an attack phase. So they just sit there, and every turn they just damage your opponent. And so this will allow them to kind of do double damage that turn, which is really good. So I played 4 of those. I maxed out on 4 of those. And then just to have some little bit of help in this deck, I played Alchemy, which you search your deck for 2 lesson cards and show them to your opponent and put them into your hand. It's just a way to speed up getting more lessons into your hand, just because some of these creatures do require a hefty cost to play them. So for the creatures, we got 1 Pet Toad. This is just an interesting one. He doesn't do any damage. He just has 1 health, so he just has to take 1 point of damage and he's dead. But whenever a spell card damages you, you may let Pet Toad take that damage instead. So what you do is you just let him sit there and play, and if, say, your opponent plays a spell that's going to do 10 damage to you, he'll take all the damage and then just die. So really good at that. So I played 2 of those, 2 Pet Toads. Then I placed some items in here. I don't know if I talked about items in my other video, but these pretty much are like enchantments or whatever. They just kind of sit and play. The reason why I like this one is it provides a paw, so it's almost like having a lesson in play. And you can use this action to discard this card from play to draw 3 cards. That's really cool because you might not need that paw after a while. You might have enough lessons out, but you're out of cards, or you need more cards in your hand, so you could just get rid of this thing and draw 3 cards. Really powerful, really good. Then I play 1 Cage. So during your turn, you may discard this card from play and use an action to choose a creature in play and return it to the owner's hand. So, I mean, that might help you if your opponent is playing creatures, but again, I'm just playing it because it does provide a paw. So there's cards like this in in Magic the Gathering that are similar. It costs 2 mana and it sits in play, and it provides a mana. So that's why I was thinking it's just good for extra lessons, so you can get these things out there. This one's Guide to Household Pests. You may use an action to discard this card and choose a creature in play and do 4 damage to it. Also provides a paw. Just in case your opponent is playing creatures again, you can get rid of one of them. And I'm playing 1 Location, which is another card similar to the item cards, but I believe you can only have 1 location in play. So when you play this card, discard any other location in play, yours or your opponent. So it's sort of how the field spells work in Yu-Gi-Oh! When Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out, you're only allowed to have one. So this is the same thing. You're only allowed one location. And when a paw lesson, yours or your opponent, is discarded from play, you may put it into your hand. So, you know, if there's anything that's going to discard a paw, you can actually just add it to your hand. So I just threw it in there just because, you know, kind of works. So now I'm playing 2 Sandstone Gargoyles. These are kind of neat. When Sandstone Gargoyle does damage to your opponent, if he or she doesn't have any creatures in play, it deals 2 more damage. So essentially, if your opponent's not playing a creature deck, this is going to do 3 damage every turn, and it only costs 3. So that's pretty good, and it's got a health of 2. Then I play 1 Black Bat. It's a cost of 4. When you play this card, do 2 damage to your opponent. So this guy damages literally right away. It's kind of like, you know, haste in Magic the Gathering if you play that, or any card game that allows you to attack the turn it comes into play when normal rules would not allow. And he does 2 damage every turn. So the turn you play him, you do 2 damage, and then on your next turn, you're going to do 2 damage. He unfortunately only has a health of 1. So again, anything will kill him, but it's still cool that it's 2 damage right off the bat. Then I play 1, I think it's 1 Norbert. Norbert, he's a 4 cost, so you have to have 4 paws in play. And then to play this, you have to discard 2 of your lessons from play. Again, that's why we play so many lessons, and that's why we play those other cards to search out lessons, because this does require quite a bit of lessons, but this does 5 damage a turn. So for 4, I mean, for the cost of 2 from play, you can get this guy out doing 5 damage every turn, and he has 3 health, which is pretty good. Then we are playing 2 Devil's Snare. So Devil's Snare, to play this card, discard 1 of your lessons from play, again. And then at the end of each of your turns, remove all damage counters from Devil's Snare. So that's really good because he's a 6 health. So if your opponent does 4 damage to him, every turn he just re-heals. And he only does 2 damage, but still, I mean, his health is good. It's going to be hard for your opponent to get rid of him. Then I play a spell card. I think I play a bunch of these. So I play 3 Hagrid the Stranger. So obviously this deck is, you know, Hagrid's deck because he was all about the creatures. But this one, you could put a creature card from your discard pile into your hand. So what's good about that is damage is in this game is taking the top card off your deck and putting it into the graveyard or into your discard pile. So if your opponent's damaging you, they're most likely going to send a monster or a creature that you like to your discard pile. So you can always just bring it back and play it again. Or if they destroy, you know, play a spell to destroy a creature, you can grab it back. So I play 3 of those. Then for a level 5 creature, Marble Gargoyle. When Marble Gargoyle does damage to your opponent, if he or she doesn't have any creatures in play, it deals 3 more. So much like that other one that I showed earlier, it's just this does more damage. So you're going to do 5 damage for the cost of 5. And he's got 3 health, so pretty good card. And then for another 5, just Cunning Fox. This is just a standard one. No real effect, just 3 damage each turn. He's got a health of 1. So I played 2 of those just to get, just to get more damage on board. I mean, these types of decks can really get it frustrating for your opponent if they can't deal with the creatures, I should say. Every turn they're going to be taking damage, and you don't have to keep paying the cost. Vicious Wolf, 3 damage and 3 health for 6. You know, so it's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't take long. If every turn you're putting in 2 lessons, that's only turn 3. You'll have enough to pay for it. And then I got 2 of these shinier, prettier unicorn cards. So they don't do any attacking, but to play this card, you discard 1 of your paw lessons from play. You get 1 more action each of your turns. That's really good. I mean, to get 3 actions a turn. But it is 6 to pull it out, so you do need to get to your 6. But once you do that, if you could draw cards and stuff, you can start getting a lot of creatures in play. And he's got a health of 6 too, so to kill him, you have to do 6 damage to him. So that's really cool. I believe that's like the top rarity too. I think with that rarity symbol in the corner, it's really hard to see. So then we got a 7 up here. I think there's just one of these guys, the guard dog. So during each of your turns, you do 3, and he has a health of 5. So he's just, harder to get rid of. Nice card. And then we got another 7, Welsh Green Dragon. And then you have to discard 2 of your paws to play it. And when you play this card, you do 6 damage to your opponent. So that's really cool too. Again, he just comes into play and does 6 damage right away. And then each turn he's going to do 6 more damage. So that's 6 cards. So 6 cards off their deck. The next turn, another 6 cards. So he's going to start really, adding up. And he's got a health of 4, which is good. And then the last monster I keep saying monster, creature we play is Fluffy. This one's pretty badass. It's a 10, and to play this card, you discard 2 lessons from play. So it's going to be your finisher card. And he does 12 damage a turn. That's a lot. I mean, by the time you get to 10 to pull this guy out, 12 damage is going to really wreck your opponent. And it's got 21 health. So the chances of your opponent being able to destroy this with any spells that do damage it's going to take a long time of just hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And most likely they're just going to default to trying to kill you first. But Fluffy is definitely your finisher card. You put him down and it's like, can you stop this card? No. I'm probably going to win then. And so that's it for the creatures. Then I got some adventures in character. So I have Rubius Hagrid. It's one of the holofoil ones, so you could see, as I turn it, you can see his image appear, which is cool. They did a bunch of these type of cards. But it's like a mirror. And it's kind of hard to read sometimes, but especially in certain lighting. But whenever one of your creatures does 3 or more damage to your opponent, it deals 2 more damage when it normally would. So he's going to beef up your creature attacks every turn, which is cool. And it's a character card, so you have to use 2 actions to put it into play. And then he'll just sit there alongside your other character and start doing damage. And I think the rest are adventures. These can be pretty mean. So this one is, you put this into play. It takes 2 actions to put an adventure into play as well. Your opponent gets 1 fewer action on each of his or her turns, even the turn this adventure is solved. If that would mean your opponent has 1 fewer action, he or she still gets 1 action. So that can be pretty brutal, making your opponent only have 1 action a turn. You pull this out right away, your opponent's only going to be able to put down 1 lesson, and they're really going to be slowing down. You're slowing down your opponent. And then to solve it, they have to take 8 damage. So again, that is brutal. And the reward, if they solve that, if they take the 8 damage to solve this, the reward is to draw 3 more cards. So essentially, that's almost like taking another 3 damage. So that's pretty, busted right there. It's amazing they would even make a card like that. And of course, I put 2 in the deck. This is the same card. It's just foily and pretty. And we have Through the Arc, which is an adventure. Your opponent can't play spell cards. Another, mean card, because people probably do play a lot of spells. To solve this, your opponent skips total of 4 actions. So again, it's going to slow your opponent down. So each turn, they're going to have to skip 2 actions. And then on their next turn, they're going to have to skip 2 actions just to solve this one. And then your opponent, for the reward, your opponent may put an item card from his or her discard pile into their hand. So that might be good, and it might just be whatever, if they're even playing items. And the very last card is Caught by Snape. Your opponent can't use actions to play cards except lessons. So pretty much all that they can play is lesson cards. And then your opponent, to solve this, your opponent uses actions to play lesson cards 3 times. Those actions don't need to be right after another. And then to reward, your opponent may put any number of lesson cards from his or her hand into play. So it's really just going to amp up their lessons, but they're not going to be able to play cards. So while your creatures are sitting there damaging them every turn, this adventure is really going to hurt them. So this is that's the creature deck that I put together. I built this deck a while ago. I don't really play this game anymore. I mean, I don't have anybody to play it with. But maybe one day I'll probably, if I start playing cards in the card shops again, I can go, bring these cards with me and maybe have a couple of games with some friends. Anyways, hope you liked the deck. Like I said, I have a few other videos where I talk about Harry Potter, and maybe I'll do a couple more videos talking about some of the other cards. Hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.